We got some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders are now officially cutting cornerback Jack Jones. This is coming in from Ian Rappaport. I made a video earlier today around the news that Vincent Bonsignore reported that the Raiders are at least going to try to trade Jack before releasing him. And it sounds like, because that report came out, I'm going to say probably about three and a half hours ago at the time that I'm making this video. And now the Raiders have released him less than 3.5 hours. The number one thing that I don't want people to think is that the Raiders only tried to trade Jack for 3.5 hours. Like, that's not the case at all. I think that Jones was probably one of those players in the background that was kind of looking to get out, and the Raiders were probably looking to move on from him. There was zero money guaranteed to Jones, which makes a lot of sense for the Raiders to try to trade or to just outright cut him. And if you're Jones, you came over here for Antonio Pierce to be a part of that regime, and that regime is no longer here. So I get why Jones's team probably wanted to get out of Las Vegas, and I understand why the Raiders probably wanted to move on from Jack Jones. But my promise is this: anytime that breaking news happens, I will get you guys a video, so make sure you're subscribed, make sure those notifications are turned on. So we're going to go through still some of the little nuances here that I think is important with Jones, with the contract, and still some of those potential trade partners that maybe called the Raiders, maybe they did not. I'm not 100% sure. But the most important thing that I've seen on social media since this news came out is, a little bit of panic, I would say, in the eyes of Raider Nation of like, wow, I can't believe the Raiders are trying to do this. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I can't believe that it's surprising to find out that the Raiders have been trying to move on from Jack Jones, for months. And I made a video a few months ago about potential trade candidates, potential cut candidates, and Jones was on that list. I would say that we know that Jones can be a talented player. We know that he can be a dynamic playmaker that can make just game-changing plays. Go ask the Kansas City Chiefs, during Christmas time. Go ask Patrick Mahomes. But then the other part of his game, it is extremely inconsistent. There is no will in the run game. And, for a team like that might want to go out there and switch it up a little bit, man and zone, you're just not going to get the best results with somebody like Jack Jones. So, I'm going to wish Jack the best, because that dude made one of my Christmases, probably one of the greatest Christmases of all time. And I will spam 18 down below, and I hope a lot of y'all do the exact same thing. But, let's also get one thing straight here. This is a good move for the Raiders, because you can save $3.4 million, and you give some of your younger cornerbacks an opportunity to go out there and make a case for themselves in the NFL. Jones was still youngish. He was 28 years old, but they went out and they signed Eric Stokes. You got Decamerion, Richardson. I want to see what Jakorian Bennett's going to be able to do going forward. This team likes Kai Blue Kelly. They like some of these other players, like a Darnay Holmes. I think is somebody else that Patrick Graham personally likes. But they're still going to go out and they're going to have to draft a corner. And like I said on the last video that I did a few hours ago, I anticipate that the corners that they're looking at, they're going to either take one in round 1, round 2, or in round 3. So my question to all of you out there is this: what is your confidence level in the Raiders cornerback room? And I want you to scale it from me from 1, you're not confident at all, 10, it's the best cornerback room in the National Football League. My answer is going to be coming up here right after this ad break, which means you're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and please give me your answer. The one that I'm going to go with here is, I'm going to say it's a 5 right now on my confidence level. And I say it's a 5 because of Pete Carroll and this regime. If this regime wasn't built on the identity of being able to really find solid players at corner, at safety, just DBs in general, it'd probably be a little bit lower of a number. I mean, there's a lot of athletes in that cornerback room that we have, but there's still a lot of unknown commodities, no doubt about it. If I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, there's definitely a handful of names that I'm looking at, and a lot of the names that I'm looking at, are in round 1, they're in round 2. So one of the things I want to talk about here on today's show is I'm going to go through some of the top 30 visits that the Raiders have had at the cornerback position, some of the formal combine interviews that the Raiders have had, and then at the very end, we are meeting with a player that I guarantee is going to go top 10. We're going to be meeting with him on Tuesday. I'll kind of break all that down. But before I get into that, I do just want to clarify one more time. The Raiders did try to trade Jack Jones. Nobody was willing to bite for the offer, and it doesn't surprise me at that $3.4 million price tag that he was coming with, which, again, some people might say, oh, that's nothing for Jones. Based off the way he played last season, and again, he was probably the worst cornerback that we had on the Raiders in terms of our top 3 or 4 that we were putting out there on the field, but, No team's going to pay Jack Jones $3.4 million when you consider his also off the field issues that he's had on every team that hasn't been ran by Antonio Pierce, or at least has had some sort of connection with AP. So I'm not shocked at all that the Raiders weren't able to find a trade. I don't want to hear anything about John Spytek, Pete Carroll, this and that. This is a smart move because you're able to save some money. And now hopefully you use that money and you figure out another way to bring in an upgrade. I don't know if it's going to be at corner. If it was up to me, I would imagine that they might try to use that money and go out and add a receiver to help Geno Smith after we just got that brand new contract done. So let's first talk about the corners that the Raiders have at least had a top 30 visit with. And to my knowledge, there is only 3 that I know at this current moment. UTSA cornerback Zach Frazier, which is kind of fun. And I say that because I haven't done a lot of homework on Frazier. The homework assignment for Raider Nation tonight might be to do a little bit more research on Frazier because that's an interesting school because I love Tariq Woolen. And Tariq Woolen was an athletic specimen at corner, and Pete Carroll fell in love with him, and he ended up being a solid player over there in Seattle. He's still a solid player, though he did fall off last season, and has been a name that, I'll be real, I've heard in some trade circles just because he's no longer has the coaching staff that was there when they ended up drafting him. The other 2 names, you got Will Johnson, top 30 visit, and there's been a lot of smoke around the Raiders potentially taking that young man in the first round. I don't know if he's going to go off the board at 6, but if the Raiders do end up trading back, and I think some spots to look at, the New Orleans Saints are looking like an interesting option, especially if they do want Shedeur Sanders. So that could be a team to look out for. And then another corner, and this is another name where I've been hearing him a lot. Benjamin Morrison, cornerback from Notre Dame, had some injuries. He was one of the top players that I thought that the Raiders could end up drafting in the second round at pick 37. The big difference is Will Johnson's round 1. Benjamin Morrison, he's round 2. In terms of their formal combine interviews, they had Jahdae Barron from Texas. He's going to be a top 15 pick. Super great Swiss Army knife. I've made a few videos on him on the Raiders Report. Benjamin Morrison's name again. Will Johnson. Siobhan Revel. Siobhan Revel, I would say, is like a Richard Sherman style of prospect where doesn't quite have the physicality yet, but you can see the athletic traits. 6'3", 195, 200-pounder from ECU. Did have a really bad injury at the beginning of the season, but he was somebody that I would say is probably going to go in the top 50. There were some people that thought he could go round 1, but I'm going to say top 50. Trey Amos, he was a name that I mentioned earlier on today's show. I have heard Trey Amos, cornerback from Ole Miss, his name come up a bunch. That would be somebody that the Raiders would probably have to target in round 2, somewhere around 37. And then the other formal combine invite or interview that they had was Kobe Bryant, cornerback from Kansas. He did have a rough NFL combine, but I heard that he did really well in the interview process. Probably going to be somebody that you're looking at in round 3. We don't really think that he's going to fall to round 4, but we've seen things happen. I would say, though, round 3, round 4 for somebody along the lines of Kobe Bryant. All right, before I get out of here, the other news that I saw today that I was kind of kicking myself in the ass, but for not talking about earlier, was the Raiders are scheduled to meet with Mason Graham, and that's going to be on Tuesday. Defensive tackle from Michigan. I think that he could be a top 5 overall pick, and if you're the Raiders and you want to go best player available, I know there's a lot of Ashton Genty hype out there, but Mason Graham's right up there in terms of overall player prospects if you are truly, truly trying to go best player available. And if they go out and they get Mason Graham, I'm telling you this right now, it might be the best defensive line in the NFL, and I'm not afraid to go out and say that. So for a team that values the trenches, definitely going to be an interesting one there to monitor. But just wanted to give you guys an update. The breaking news that the Raiders now have officially moved on from Jack Jones. They have saved $3.4 million. They did try to trade him, but not shocking that there was nobody really willing to pick up that price tag at 3.4. Appreciate everyone tuning in. I'm getting ready to go watch the South Carolina game. We're rooting for the girls over there at South Carolina, Alex and I. If South Carolina wins, and then we end up winning our women's bracket here for my family, which a lot of bragging rights. And then also before I go, if you made it this far in the show, literally what I was doing when I got the Jack Jones news, I was watching Alexander Ovechkin break the Wayne Gretzky record of 895 goals scored. If you get a chance today, go check out how classy Wayne Gretzky is, how classy Alexander Ovechkin, and how the entire NHL handled it. They did a great job showing love, I would say, to Alex's family. Did a great job showing to his kids, teammates, heck, people who have been a part of that organization with him for as long as what they have. congratulations to Ovechkin, somebody that I grew up watching a lot of. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and hockey is very big, kind of where I grew up in. Not super, super big. My dad loves hockey. He's an Islander fan who Ovechkin actually scored the goal against. But, growing up watching Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby, watching Alexander Ovechkin, it was always those two guys. So for somebody that is hung around as long as he have, congrats. But there's still only one great one, and it's Wayne Gretzky. So Ovechkin, congrats, but I'm still giving a tip of the cap there to Wayne Gretzky. Jack Jones, best of luck to you unless you're going up against us, but it is now officially official. The Raiders are $3.4 million richer after moving on from Jack Jones. If you want even more videos here around the Raiders, I got you covered. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Don't matter the time, don't matter the day. And when they do stuff, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys up to date. Click this button right here if you're looking for even more videos around the Raiders. And then if you're looking for even more content around the silver and black. For those that don't know, it's 2 months and Alex and I get married. So if any other breaking news happens, you might not hear from me for the rest of the day.